That's right. When the conversation is this good, it spills over into the after show. Welcome to the Independence After Show, also known as the Independence Ass.
I see.
Clever acronym.
Show. I get it. I like acronyms. I like
do as well.
This is wild, isn't it? This is anarchy right now.
It is. This is absolute anarchy. This is what libertarians live for.
Anarcho-capitalism can work.
Yes.
Right now,
Murray
we're all
Rothbard being channeled. Yes, and Camille Foster's visibly aroused.
Yes.
There's no police presence in this room.
No.
And yet no one's hitting each other.
We all get along.
Yeah, everything's working.
Free exchange.
Now that we got the statists out of the room.
Well, we respect one
claiming
another's
that
private
Congress
property.
is racist, and that's why nothing happens in Washington.
Yeah, you've actually got to substantiate those claims here. That doesn't fly here.
You know the thing about that, besides the weird racism bit, but like when Nancy Pelosi, the Democrats, won in 2006, it's not going to be boring, I swear. They won by saying we are going to grind this Bush machine, grind the gears, and just stop it all. Like we're going to say no to Social Security privatization. We're going to say no on a bunch of stuff, and they did, and it was very arousing for Democrats. Like finally, we're going to put the brass knuckles back on. That was part of what they did. And you go back and read all their quotes from November 2006 and January 2007. It's all about this, like, yes, obstructionism, finally. So it's kind of weird.
There are far too few people who applaud obstructionism for the feature, not the bug that it is. It is totally a part of the system. It's supposed to happen. You're supposed to give one another a hard time and make it difficult to institute massive sweeping changes at any point in time that you'd prefer. So it's wonderful. I applaud obstructionism.
Yeah, the government not getting along is always good for us.
I think it's great when the government's shutting down and they're not passing laws. I don't think that's a bad thing at all.
It comes very close to when Waco happened, the Branch Davidians. George Carlin said, Christians fighting the government with guns, I'm okay with that.
That's great. Thanks, Penn.
Who is one of your favorite comics? Was Carlin one of your favorites?
Well, Carlin was a real hero. I think the best comic alive now is Gilbert Gottfried.
Really?
I think Gilbert
really got the shaft on the whole...
Affleck.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. It's also, no one looked at the timeline, including Gilbert. No one looked at the fact that he had tweeted most of those jokes before the tsunami got bad. It was predicted to be bad, but the nuclear plants hadn't been hit. None of that stuff. He was making all these jokes. And on top of all of that, of course, he can do whatever he wants, but the timeline was not right. And it's too bad. But Gilbert live really is, he's Miles Davis. He really is Stravinsky.
He's always the best at those roasts and things.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you until you've seen him really work live, there's a kind of, what you're looking for in art is for inspiration and technique to collide as fast as they can. You want someone who's crazy and also is able to do stuff. And you very rarely get that. Miles Davis is the best example. Invent 4 different kinds of music and be able to play them all well. And Gilbert kind of does that, and it's wonderful.
Yeah, but that's what was so inspiring about, a certain era in comedy, is people were able to work rooms. Mm-hmm. They were able to work with that, and they had an incredible catalog of jokes and material to work with. Mm-hmm. But, my favorite, I always love seeing comics like even Robin Williams and Howie Mandel being able to just make fun of people in the moment. And it taught me a lot about performing and mindfulness.
Yeah, it's very good. Live performance is kind of a very special moment. It's one of the reasons that all the people getting busted by hunks taken on cell phones at comedy clubs. We have to learn, and it'll take us a while to learn that with access to that electronic stuff, we cannot judge stuff out of context. And context in this case does not just mean the words that were said or a transcript, but the fact that you're in a comedy club, it's midnight, it's a wild atmosphere, who's gone on before, and you're kind of stretching, and you're supposed to fail. You're supposed to say stuff that crosses a line and is a little bit offensive, and pulled out and tweeted or a little bit of video shown is going to really crush that real freedom. I wonder if we're going to start having comedy clubs where cell phones are not allowed, like swing clubs.
Think how many comedy apologies there have been recently.
There's a lot of them.
The Steve Martin apology over lasagna. There's a couple of others.
But humor requires that. Like you're not. It's not like you're on the record giving an interview to the New York Times. It's like when you're reacting to something, you're saying something, and you're pushing the envelope. It's supposed to be kind of dangerous, isn't it?
In Steve Martin's case, he is really the kindest, most polite man I've ever met. and he would never cause offense to anybody. He makes a joke, and then the very act of asking him to apologize, when we all know his heart's in the right place, that's where the offensive thing is. And making people apologize, they attack by saying the joke wasn't funny and it offended me. And both of those things are okay. You're supposed to, if you can't do a joke that's not funny, you can't find the joke that is funny that you didn't think of before. And the fact that someone's offended, it's impossible to have an action without someone being offended. But the whole problem with this is not our society, it's just electronic. We have not learned yet how to deal with that much information coming in. I mean, it used to be the only people that watched a TV show were people that liked the TV show and understood it. Now you have people being able to pull clips, so people are able to comment on shows they know nothing about. I mean, most of your protests against things are for people who aren't regular viewers, regular listeners. So we got to find a way to realize that, hundreds of millions of us are all talking at once, and we have a lot of information, and to just loosen up a little bit.
Can people film your show in Vegas?
They're not supposed to, but they do. And we just had a guy. We did this really difficult trick called the bullet catch. We do a double bullet catch on stage, and the guy got on stage. It was just on a whim. And he was wearing Google Glass, and he said to me, "Absolutely sure the answer was going to be no. Can I turn on my Google Glass?" And I looked at him and went, "What do you think, Teller?" We went, "Yeah, turn it on." And it's up on the web, the whole bit from his point of view. And of course, the nice thing about Google Glass is it's right where his eyes are. And the one place we made that trick to fool was right in your eyes. We would actually have liked it less if you had a different camera angle, but right on the eyes were clean. And so that happens once in a while. And our show is carefully scripted because we're doing stuff that is supposed to look dangerous and yet is very, very safe. And in order to do that, we have to be scripted. So we aren't in any danger from people taking stuff. I worry about people who are doing stuff that I believe is not funny and that I believe is offensive, because I really want them doing that. I really want people doing stuff that I don't agree with, that isn't funny and is offensive, because that's
What's offensive
what freedom.
To you?
I get very uncomfortable. I, as a rule, don't like scatological humor at all. Just doesn't grab me. Although having young children, it gets a little easier. They're good at it.
Yeah. Yeah. Farts are funny from a young age, aren't they?
Very funny. Yeah. And I think you rediscover that as a parent.
Yeah.
I also am so sensitive in a way that I would ridicule in someone else. I'm so sensitive to any sort of racial stuff. I'm just sick of it. I'm sick of proving that we can make these jokes and other people can take them. Now, that doesn't mean that I want someone taken out of context and say they shouldn't do that. I'm just saying when someone explores, we're post racism now, we can do this now. If it's not shocking, if we really are past it, then it's not interesting. And if it is shocking, then it's distasteful to me.
What about like Dave Chappelle, for example?
Yeah, well, Dave Chappelle, was not directly, just brilliant, but not directly speaking to me. Just a slightly different generation, but so talented and so great. I just like there to be as much different stuff as possible, and what I like and don't like is so uninteresting to me. I wanted everything to be out there. It's exactly the libertarian point of view. I mean, I really relish things I don't agree with. I mean, Nadine Strawson, when she was head of the ACLU back in the late 80s, made this incredible point. All the other ACLU people used to say stuff like, I hate this speech, but I want it to exist. And Nadine said, and she talked to me about this forever, she would come out and say, no, I want to read the Turner Diaries. I want to read this horrible stuff. Not for any sort of reason except that I want to read it. And that was a huge step. And then the ACLU kind of, to me, kind of lost their footing. Yeah. They weren't just for freedom.
Did you ever know Frank Zappa?
Yeah, I did, and he's a huge, huge hero of mine.
Was he an influence?
Yeah, and I only met him once, but I had to spend quite a bit of time with him. Spent 4 or 5 hours talking to him, and he was a big hero. When I was growing up in a little town, someone who was crazy and against drugs was something I was really hungry for.
Yeah.
Long ponytail, bunched.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, the first time when I first got my driver's license in my little town in western Massachusetts was within a week after getting my driver's license that I drove to Boston and saw the Mothers of Invention. I mean, I just so wanted to get out of my little town and so see something fabulous, and still one of the best shows I ever saw.
Yeah, and the thing I like about Frank is what Greg Gutfeld pointed out the other night. He had that unpredictability. You know, you couldn't quite put him in a box, and he was so much smarter than everyone else, and proved that at the hearings.
And this really weird combination of, and very few other people have done this, of doing music that was really sophisticated 20th century classical and selling it with a low kind of humor that really got people to be able to accept stuff. I mean, if you'd listen to any of the rap and hip hop that puts together these divergent keys and rhythms, all of that comes from the 20th century classical stuff. I mean, Kanye West's new record that Rick Rubin produced. I mean, I hadn't listened to it. I took a long time to listen to it. When I finally got to it, I just said, this is amazing. This is 20th century classical. This is Schoenberg. This is, this is Stockhausen. This is Zappa. This is all that stuff. And now it's been into the popular culture. It's like, it was a dream come true.
I think if Rick Rubin was here, though, he would tell you he reduced it, not produced it.
Absolutely.
Eventually to convince Matt that album is a work of art.
That's fine.
Absolutely.
I'm not resistant. I just haven't.
That's fine.
Lord agrees with you. Lord loved Jesus.
That's good.
So, see, and it comes back to religion. Penn, thank you so much for being here tonight. I really appreciate you coming in the studio and spending so much time.
I love being here. I had a great time when we did it in the remote.
Yeah.
And I like being here in person more.
All right, can't wait to have you back.
Okay,
All right, baby. Thank you. And thank you. Don't forget to tune in and watch us. State of the Union tomorrow night at midnight. Fox Business Network, the Big Libertarian Block, starting at 11 after the talk with Stossel, and then we'll come on right after to tuck you in for sleepy night-night. Thanks again. We'll see you tomorrow. Good night.